Is public hearings. First item will be Pain Rehabilitation Consultants Management Group parking lot.
And I need to recuse myself. Thanks.
As you know, this is Miru Desai's project, but she is on vacation, so I'm going to wing it on her behalf. Okay, this may look familiar to you. In November 2008, the council approved a mixed-use project known as Parkside Residential Project, formerly Paper Mill, and it's now going through a number of new name changes. We're not sure what the name is at this point. We think it's Park on Powell, P-A-R-C on Powell. The project included construction of a public park and replacement of a parking lot that had 41 private parking spaces owned by the owners of the building across the street at 1335 Stanford Avenue. In February 2012, the City Council approved the design for the parking, for the park, that should say, and parking lot upon the recommendation of the Planning Commission. This drawing shows those parcels. This is the current layout of the parcels. You have two privately owned parcels that are shown here in red that are surrounded by city-owned, a city-owned property that has a couple of holes in it. This currently is a parking lot, and the public part of it is open to the public to use, and the private part of it is only open to PRC to use. The reconfigured parking lot and park design is this. This came out of a long process. I know there were questions about this last time. If you really want me to go into it, I do have another PowerPoint presentation that I can bring up that goes through all the iterations of all the different design schemes that were considered before this was arrived at. But the idea is to have a parking lot at the east end of the site with access from Doyle Street, and then the rest of the site would become the city park, which of course requires us to reconfigure the property lines. This is a drawing that's a little more refined. This shows the actual design of the park and parking lot that was approved by the Planning Commission and City Council. Now, as you may recall, because of the desire to save these trees down here, this design is going to be changed a little bit before it's actually constructed, but it will essentially be the same. The parking lot design itself has not changed. This shows the new configuration of the parcels. This is a proposed parcel map. This parcel map has not been recorded yet, but this is what it is going to end up looking like. The PRC private parking lot parcel will be here, matching the configuration of the new parking lot, and then the city parcel will be here, and it will have two fingers that go down either side of the parking lot. When the general plan was adopted in October 2009, all of the parcels in this block, including the Parkside apartment property and the parking lot, had a land use designation of mixed use with residential, a floor area ratio designation of 1.2 to 1.6, a maximum building height of 30 to 55 feet, and a maximum residential density of none. The Parkside parcel actually did have a residential density of 50 to 60, I believe, on it, but the southern part where the parking lot was had no designation. When the planning regulations were adopted in 2013, the zoning map designated the park and parking lot parcels as PO Park Open Space. As part of the negotiations for the land swap, PRC has now requested that the proposed parking lot parcel be rezoned back to MUR, which was what the zoning of it was when they purchased their property in 2010. As you know, this item was considered by the Commission at your last meeting on May 22nd, but due to a notification error, not everybody was notified who should have been. It must now be reconsidered by the Commission. So the proposal, and I would note that at your May 22nd meeting, you modified the staff recommendation. You lowered the residential density to the lowest category. You lowered the height limit to the lowest category. You did not change the FAR, however. Our recommendation now at this point is that you put all three of those things at the lowest category, because in our opinion, it doesn't make sense to have a high FAR and then a low residential density height limit. They should all be in the same ballpark, we think. So the amendment for the general plan would be to add a maximum residential density of 20 to 35 to the parking lot parcel. That's the lowest possible residential density unless we create a new category. Redesignating the city-owned park parcel in the general plan from mixed use with residential to park open space, and also removing the other park opportunity circle on the land use diagram. Changing the maximum height to 30 feet, no bonus for both properties. So far, this is what you did at your last meeting. And the new thing is changing the maximum FAR to 0.5, no bonus for both properties. And then the rezoning would be to rezone the proposed parking lot parcel from park open space to MUR mixed use with residential. So here's some maps that illustrate all of that. This would be the new land use map, and you can see it's right here, and you can see the green circle there that's currently on the map that designates the other park opportunity, which really is kind of redundant with the park open space zoning. So we would remove that green circle from the map, and here's a blow up of what it would look like. The green circle actually should be on this side because this is the before condition, but it's not there, so I wanted to point it out in the bigger map. So currently, the entire block is mixed use with residential in the general plan land use diagram, and these two little things right here are the PRC parcels. The proposal would be to redesignate the new PRC parcel to MUR, similar to the Parkside parcel, and then all of the surrounding city property would be designated park open space. On the residential density map, it's right here, and just to blow that up, currently there is no designated residential density on the park or the parking lot parcel, but there is on the Parkside Apartments parcel. So this proposal would be to redesignate only the parking lot parcel with the lowest residential density. It doesn't show up very well, at least on the screen up there. I'm not sure what it looks like on your monitors, but this color here is not the same as this color here. It's this color over here. It's the lower residential density. And on the height limit map, it's right here. Currently, it is 30 to 55 over the entire area, including the park and parking lot parcel. And this is a lighter shade of blue. It's the same as this blue over here. It's basically 30 feet with no bonus. And then this is the new thing, the FAR map. The proposal would be to drop the FAR to the lowest possible category, which is 0.5 no bonus. It's 1.2 to 1.6 now, and this is what it would look like if we reduced both parcels to 0.5 no bonus. And finally, for the rezoning, this is what that would look like. And if we blow up this area right here, you can see currently both the city property and the PRC property are zoned park open space. The rezoning would rezone the proposed PRC parcel to MUR, and it would leave the city property as park open space. So, to approve a general plan amendment, the Commission must make a recommendation to the Council outlining the reasons for the recommendation, its consistency with the general plan guiding principles, its internal consistency with other provisions of the general plan, and consistency with other adopted plans. As I said, when the general plan was being developed, the Parkside project, including the public park, had not yet been approved, and therefore the general plan land use diagram designates the entire block as MUR. A potential new park is indicated with a green circle. By the time the planning regulations were adopted in 2013, the park and parking lot had been designed, so the zoning map designated the properties as park open space. A request to rezone the parking lot provides an opportunity for us now to bring consistency between the general plan land use diagram and the zoning map by designating the PRC parking lot parcel as MUR in both the general plan and the zoning, and the park parcel as park open space in both the general plan and the zoning. For the rezoning, the Planning Commission must make the following findings: that the proposed amendment is consistent with the general plan, that it's necessary for the public health, safety, and general welfare, or will be of benefit to the public, that it complies with CEQA, and that the subject property is suitable for uses permitted in the proposed zone. The proposed amendment to rezone the PRC parking lot from PO to MUR is consistent with the general plan. The parking lot meets the parking requirements for the PRC office located across the street, and it is therefore a more appropriate designation of MUR. I would also just like to note that I'm not sure if I didn't point this out, but on the parcel map, there is a proposed 20-foot wide easement that would go not quite through the middle, but a little bit offset through the parking lot parcel and also through the city parcel. That's where there's a big, I think it's a water line. It would be difficult, if not impossible, to build anything on that easement. And given the small size of the parcel and the lowest, the proposed lowest residential density, lowest height limit, and lowest FAR, and that easement, it's unlikely that anybody would be able to build much of anything on it. It's simply a matter of fairness. The PRC would like the property to be zoned the same as it was when they bought their property. So that's, and they view the park open space rezoning that occurred in 2013 as a devaluation of their property. So they would just like it to be back to MUR. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council that they approve the proposed general plan amendment and rezoning. And that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
So right now, the parking is meeting their requirements for their building across the street, correct?
Yes.
And if their property were to be sold, there would still be the requirement for that parking across the street? I mean,
Well, it depends.
depending on what
If
the
their building
future
were to
use
be
is.
sold for the same use and no physical changes, yes, they'd still need that parking. If it were to be sold and repurposed as for some other use, it would probably have a different parking requirement, so it may not need as much parking, or it might need more. And if they were able to find another location for the parking, for example, inside the building, as some people have done, then they might not need that for parking any longer. But as I said, you can't build anything very big on that little parcel.
Now, the current building they're in, would that be classified as a tier 1?
That designation only applies within the Park Avenue district.
Okay.
I can't recall if it was one of our significant structures. Do you remember, Diana? 1335 Stanford, where PRC is.
Sure doesn't look like it.
Sorry, I'm putting her on the spot. I don't think it is. It depends. Yeah, I don't think.
But for demolition and to build something where you could put parking into it, that would more likely have to go to us and the city council to get a demolition permit?
Well, not for the demolition, but the new building definitely would require a major design review, if not a use permit from the Planning Commission. I was actually referring to putting parking inside the existing building. I don't know if it's feasible in that building,
Right.
but in one block to the east, the what is it called, Icon on Doyle? That's an old industrial building, and they put the parking for that residential project inside the building
And built on top?
and built on top. So it's not, you know,
I just see
unheard
that
of.
building as being a typical Emeryville brick building that I think most people here would not like to see destroyed or altered. So, but there's nothing that in our guidelines that prevents that currently.
Not unless it gets designated as a significant structure.
All right.
And I have to say that the city council, the direction we got from them when we brought the significant structure list to them was that it was too long and we needed to take things off of it because we should only be designating the really special buildings. Any further questions?
If the properties with the parking were to be sold to a different user that didn't actually change the nature of the use classification, if the parking lot were zoned park open space, would it then have to be, I mean, would it be grandfathered in under those circumstances as a parking lot?
Yes, and it's not entirely clear to me that that's not permitted in the park open space zone anyway. If it would be accessory, parking is accessory to another use, and an accessory use is okay in, you know, even in a different zoning district.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does the owner or owner's representative wish to speak?
We don't have anything to add, thank you.
Okay. Any members of the public wish to speak on this? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, I mean, I don't know if there's a better alternative, but it seems pretty clear to me that if there isn't one, this does seem to limit the likelihood of the parking lot being developed. And I think the concern of the neighbors in my neck of the woods is that they all bought into this as a park and open space continuation or connection of the existing park. And I mean, ideally this would be zoned park open space and the parking lot would be allowed within it. But if that's not a scenario that can be coordinated with the owner, between the city and the owner, I do think that the height limitations and the floor area ratio that have been proposed would make it pretty unlikely that any development would occur there or be feasible within the near future.
Thank you. Okay. Close the public meeting. Do you wish to make a motion?
Well, I think, not yet a motion, but I think with what we've done with the parcel, with staff recommendations and what we did in the past thing, and looking at the building across the street, although that's not a tier 1, I think it's pretty significant as it is, being a brick building and having that industrial look and backing up to Spur Alley. I don't think the city, the residents, or our current council would really vote to demolish that building, to allow something new to be built that will handle parking as well as a new use. And then with this designation that we're creating, I don't think that this parcel across the street is really viable for development. But I think if what the owners are just asking for is to have the classification back to what it was when they purchased the property, I think that's pretty reasonable. So I think, as Citizen Gunkel had said, it's a happy medium and it is a compromise, and I think that's what this is all about. So that's just my 2 cents.
Any further comment?
Well, it is kind of a fine line there. I mean, I think as long as it remains parking, it's not an ideal use, but it's an acceptable use because it keeps it visually open. The general plan designated the area as a potential park site without a size on it. It didn't say that it's going to be a half-acre park site or it's going to be this much of the block or anything, so I don't know that there was a guarantee that there was going to be that mixed use with residential zoning that stayed on that site. And if the parking lot can remain under a park and open space designation, I would really, really not like to see building on that site. But it's a question of, if we are putting so many restrictions that they can't build on it anyway, why don't we just continue to call it park and open space?
Well, because my understanding is the owners would then not agree to the transfer of the property, and we would have 2 small parking lots on that site and no park.
But also, I mean, we can't do that. I mean, we can't put so many restrictions on it that it can't be, used for an economically viable use.
So are you saying that what is being proposed allows for construction on the site, or it makes it likely, or?
It allows
Or
for
that
something. I mean, I would assume on the non-easement area, one could build a small building of, 1 story or something. But
Could move some mobile homes in on it or something.
And they'd have to provide parking for that building as well.
presumably.
As well as what's still across the street. So in realistic terms, it's pretty much unrealistic that something could be built there.
Can you describe how this ended up, the park design, it took years, the park side project took years, how this ended up coming before us now that the property needs to be, taken back to, is mixed MRE?
Well,
Or rather?
it's kind of an doing land swaps takes a long time and involves a lot of attorneys and a lot of meetings and a lot of documents and a lot of negotiations. I think this all started a year or two ago. You know, it's sort of an iterative process. We had to get the design nailed down first. I had to prepare the parcel map, you know, hire the engineers, do all that stuff. And at some point during these negotiations, PRC realized that the property had been rezoned from what it was when they purchased it. They didn't realize that from the beginning, and I have to say, frankly, I didn't either. When I was a little surprised when I looked at the general plan and saw that the whole thing was MUR, because I thought we had designated it as park open space, and then I remembered, oh no, we didn't do that till we got around to the zoning, and we had, the green circle on the map was kind of a placeholder to indicate there'll be a park in this area somewhere. But it wasn't until probably about midway through the negotiations that PRC realized that this isn't what this has been changed. The zoning has been changed since when we bought the property. So that's when they asked for it to be rezoned. And that occurred several months ago, and it just took a while to get it on the commission agenda.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say, I actually like the original staff recommendation from our last meeting better. I think it's, given that the general plan designation is MUR, the existing general plan designation, I think that recommendation makes the zoning more consistent and compatible with the general plan. But that said, I will, I think, support the new staff recommendation. I'm not super comfortable with it because I think it makes the maps messy. I don't think it's great land use planning, but you know, I will support it because it's better than the alternative in my mind.
I would point out that it's not unprecedented. In fact, if you just look across Doyle Street, on the east side of Doyle, all the way from Stanford up to 59th Street, those parcels are all zoned, are all designated in the general plan as MUR, and I believe they're also zoned as MUR. And they have the lowest floor area ratio, they have the lowest height limit, and they have the lowest residential density. So this would be the same thing.
So I'll make a motion to approve it as recommended and forward it on to the city council.
A second.
We have a roll call.
All right. Moved by Commissioner Keller and seconded by Commissioner Moss. Commissioner Donaldson?
I'm still going to vote no, just because I think that originally the park designation was on that general piece of property, and that I don't think that there ever should be a building on that location. So.
Commissioner Coomerly?
No.
Commissioner, let's see, Commissioner Gunkel is recused. Who am I missing?
Dan.
Keller. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped you. Commissioner Keller.
Yes.
Okay. Vice Chair Moss?
Aye.
Chair Cardoza?
Aye.
3 ayes, 2 noes. The motion is approved. We will forward your recommendation to the City Council, which will hear it at their meeting next Tuesday.
Item is closed. Next item on the agenda is
Thank you for the good work, all of you.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda is commissioners' comments.
No, we still have development impact fees.
No, we want development impact
Oh,
fees.
God.
We're not done yet.
Sorry.
Actually, before we do that, I would like to briefly go back to the previous item, the PRC rezoning and general plan amendment. We have a little anomaly here that I just realized. It doesn't affect your action. Well, it sort of affects your action. You don't have to do anything over again or anything. We'll forward what you did to the City Council. However, technically,
I know what you're gonna say.
you did not approve the general plan amendment because a rezoning under state law, as reflected in our planning regulations, only requires, like everything else, a majority of those present and voting, assuming you have a quorum. So 3-2 is valid to approve the rezoning. However, state law, as reflected in our planning regulations, says for a general plan amendment, a recommendation for approval shall be made by the affirmative vote of not less than a majority of the total membership of the commission. Meaning, no matter how many people are present and voting, no matter how many people are absent or recused, you're a 7-member body, a majority is 4. So you didn't have 4 ayes. So technically, the general plan amendment was not approved. The rezoning was. As I say, it doesn't affect your action. We'll tell the city council how you voted. They'll get the sense of the commission, even if technically it didn't pass. It's okay, the council has the final word anyway. But I just wanted to make you aware of that little anomaly.
Do we want to ask the commission if anybody wants to change their vote in light of that, or should we just? No. Okay, that's the 2 no's that would change. So okay.
And please also communicate to the council that the previous vote for the incorrectly noticed hearing was did have a 4 commissioners in favor.
That's true. Commissioner Tan was not here tonight, but she did vote in favor. Yeah. So if she'd been here, we would have probably had 4 ayes, although that's not an official vote at this point, right. But we can note that, I guess. Okay.